Now, I'm briefly going to do, I'm going to do a sort of 5-minute presentation just to set the scene now, and then I will allow everyone to introduce themselves properly after that. As I'm sure you all know already, Vision 2030 has been the driver behind the recent opening of Saudi Arabia's hospitality and tourism sectors, and sustainability is one of the key pillars of Vision 2030, with environmental protection, social development, management of cultural heritage, and transparency and governance, all specifically referenced. So Vision 20 sets the scene and the context for tourism, with massive investment in the Giga projects by the PIF and the hospitality industry expected to drive visits to Saudi Arabia above 100 million by 2020, creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs for Saudi nationals and leading to tourism contributing 5 to 10% of national GDP. And the Giga projects are the face of this investment in hospitality and tourism, with over $810 billion being invested this decade. And Considerate Group has worked on a number of these projects over the past couple of years, and we're also delighted to have Christiane Zeidan on the panel today representing Red Sea Global, one of the Giga projects. And the scale of Saudi Arabia's ambitions and the challenge ahead is why we are all here today. These logos represent a quick trawl of the internet to highlight the many international hotel brands that have already committed to the Giga projects, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come. And our job is to ensure that ESG commitments are met both in the design and build phase, but also to ensure that good practice continues once hotels and the hospitality industry is up and running, as visitor numbers swell over the decades to come in what are fragile and pristine environments. Building a largely new hospitality industry means that Saudi Arabia can adapt all the latest technologies, thinking and processes. But inevitably, all this new build means high levels of embodied carbon. In the Q&A, we'll touch on what the design and engineering companies are doing to minimize the climate impact of these hundreds of new buildings. And this chart from MEAD pinpoints where the government's Giga projects have got to, highlighting that we are at the end or coming to the end of the initial construction phase, and attention is now switching to the operational phase post-opening. And from my perspective, this is, what is critical is that the first assets are opening now in AlUla, Diriyah Gate, and Red Sea Global, and that the breadth and capacity will be expanding exponentially across all projects over the course of 2024 and 2025, with capacity then steadily building towards 2030 and beyond. So the question is, where does sustainability fit in? And the left-hand chart shows the change in temperatures that have already been recorded around the globe from a 1951 to 1980 base level. And on the right-hand side, we have temperature change on the vertical axis and time on the horizontal axis, stretching from 1880 on the left to 2022 on the right. And the evidence of global warming is pretty stark. So what does this mean for the Middle East? Climate change poses many threats to the Middle East, and which is especially vulnerable to extreme weather, spiking heat, freshwater shortages and flooding. Higher global temperatures will push the GCC further above the average temperature considered optimal for growth. And according to Oxford Economics, this could result in growth declining 0.5 to 1% per annum compared to a situation where there was no global warming. And according to the publication Foreign Policy, the Middle East is warming at twice the global average rate, and by 2050 is expected to be 4 degrees warmer compared to the 1.5 degree mark above pre-industrial levels set under the 2015 Paris Agreement. So the World Bank says extreme climatic conditions will become routine, and the region will face 4 months of scorching sun every year. So what can we do? And in particular, what can the hospitality industry do? Our partner, the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, working with leading brands and operators, has been helping to lead the way and has developed a roadmap for net positive for the hospitality industry. And this graphic provides a starting point for the hotel industry, really focusing on reducing consumption of energy and carbon, as well as water and production of waste as the starting point, and building from there towards net zero and ultimately towards net positivity. We'll pick up on some of these themes on the panel Q&A in a moment. And on a final note, as a proud monarchist, on the weekend of the coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla, Considerate Group is also co-chair of the Hospitality and Tourism Task Force of King Charles III's Sustainable Markets Initiative, the SMI. And the SMI is a body that is looking to bring about leadership and change globally through collaborative action, not just across hospitality, but across more than 20 industry sectors. And we're proud to be part of this collaboration. So, that's enough from me. I will ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves properly. Yashin, would you care to kick off?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. So, hi everybody. My name is Yashin Maharaj. I'm the Building Services Technical Director at SSH, and been involved with hospitality projects for more than 20 years now, and recently been sort of focused around the sustainability of the hospitality industry when it comes to the built environment.
Fantastic, thank you. Tiana?
So good afternoon. My name is Tiana Amann, head of ESG for Kerten Hospitality. Kerten Hospitality is a lifestyle mixed-use management and operator, and we have many different brands underneath Kerten Hospitality, and one is UBU, which is our internal ESG brand standing for United, Building a Better Universe. And we really created it based on the butterfly effect, whereas small actions done by our teams on ground, they lead to the greater impact, the greater goal that we're trying to achieve. So I've been with Kerten Hospitality now for about a year and a half. I'm building with the team from the ground up our UBU strategy.
Thank you. Christiane.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Christiane. I'm representing the Red Sea Global as Sustainable Hospitality Operation Director. And I'm really pleased to be here, part of this panel, to discuss a little bit how the Giga project are really taking all the efforts to bring the Saudi sustainability vision into reality. Thank you.
And finally, but not least, Nichola.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Nichola, partner at TGP International. We are conceptors, designers, but we're also operators as well as representing brands through franchising and licensing. So we're coming to the sustainability conversation very much from the private sector and an operator viewpoint.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yashin, let's start with you. Can we start with hotel design and construction? So what have been the legislative changes or initiatives driving sustainable design in the hospitality industry in Saudi Arabia? And how has this impacted on the performance and construction of hospitality projects?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I think Vision 2030 in 2016 really set out how the benefit and importance of sustainable tourism and that the benefits can bring to the economy. Quickly after that, we had the launch of the Saudi Green Building Code in 2018, and most of them in 2019. Both of these, I think the Saudi Building Code really helped drive construction standards. It started to set the minimum benchmarks in terms of energy conservation as well as energy performance. And it kind of went full circle with Mosterdam, because Mosterdam brought about a rating system which then supported the vision of 2030. So I think these were the main drivers over the last sort of 7 years that have sort of pushed sustainability in the tourism sector and sort of allowed it to sort of develop.
Wonderful. How far are we away from achieving net zero hospitality in Saudi Arabia?
I think it's not far away at all. I think, courtesy of the work done on some of the Giga projects as well as the eco-tourism projects, what we're starting to see is that on a larger scale, we're almost there already. It's more as we start to try and scale these solutions down for those sort of private sector hospitality projects that we start to face those challenges. And we're seeing innovations every year. We're seeing technological innovations, and I think these are all helping to sort of get us over the line. I think as our social awareness as a humanity starts to increase, as corporate social responsibility starts to take hold, as people start to understand the difference between greenwashing and greenworthy, I think all of these things are starting to sort of put sustainability at the center of the discussion. And I honestly believe in that sort of private sector, within the next decade, we will definitely get there.
Good to hear. Tiana, I believe that Kerten's recently announced both a historic house hotel and a Cloud 7 residence in AlUla. So AlUla is clearly a very special and sensitive cultural heritage site. How have you approached these developments, and what have you done to ensure that you apply the principles of sustainability and ESG?
So yes, AlUla is really, I would say, a really special destination. So the local authorities there, the regulations, they are also really much focused on the preservation of the natural resources, the local communities, the people that are living there, it's really special because when you're collaborating and you're working with people that are aligned on your ESG vision, it sort of makes everything easier. So the two projects that we have currently in AlUla, it's the one recently that we announced, Art and Tour. I think it's an exemplary product of what ESG in Saudi could look like. So really the way we took the historical building, the way they've built with lower U values to make sure, we can do as much as we can to maximize natural insulation, the type of products that we use, the clay even, literally these really small things, like I said, the really small actions that we can do, they make a huge impact. The clay that we use just to hold the water, it has natural insulation to keep the water cool. The types of lighting, the cooling, the heating mechanisms that we have there, it's a beautiful project, and for me, it's a really special thing for ESG in AlUla. And AlUla is a beautiful destination. As you know, the culture, the traditions, the natural, the nature ecosystems that is there, when you're there, it's really like none other. It's very remote, it's very unique, and ESG is really able to shine there, especially with all of the local farmers, the local vendors, the local hand makers that you can partner with and work with. It really shows you what can be done in the space of ESG in Saudi Arabia once you really just take a look and focus on the local community. You focus on traditionally the way things were built, the way things were being done. It's very special.
Wonderful. And you've had the chance to go yourself, have you?
Yes, I visited the Cloud 7 residence, and like I said, for me, it's wonderful. I was there for a few days, close to a week, and I was just completely, in an oasis. Everything is very quiet, very peaceful, and you can literally, you can hear the birds, you really see the nature. Even at night, it's almost like picture perfect, the way the nature is set up there. It's very beautiful.
Wonderful, thank you. Christiane. Red Sea Global has been very clear about its net positive messaging, which puts it ahead of much of the rest of the industry. So what does net positive mean, and what measures are you putting in place now to ensure you can achieve net positivity?
Exactly, Richard. Actually, Red Sea is really committing to become a global leader in regenerative tourism and responsible and sustainable development. And it's not that we're talking about it, but really walking the talk. And we recently, the Red Sea Global was recognized as a real estate industry leader in the GRASP scoring. So we were able to achieve 91 over 100 on the ESG assessment and sustainability benchmark. Okay. And but that's not only our mandate to operate sustainably or to achieve a good score. We're going beyond that, and we are aiming to contribute and achieve a positive impact on the well-being of the communities, of the environment, and the economies where we operate and where we develop our destinations. How we're doing that, we're really adopting different measures, starting from the development, the design stage, until the operation. If we talk about the conservation and restoration activities that the Red Sea is focusing on how we can enhance the environment, how we can improve it, we have a target to achieve a 30% net conservation rate. So we are aiming to improve the ecosystem where we are operating, be it the mangroves, the seagrass, coral reefs, and others. That's from the part of the conservation and environmental restoration. It's good to mention also about the targets of our aim to have both destinations, both projects, the Red Sea and the AlUla project, operating and powered by 100% renewable energy. And that will certainly support us to achieve our net zero and more to operate at a zero carbon once we are fully operational. I can also add about the building that we are designing. We are committing to have 100% of our building LEED certified on gold and platinum. So that's again a very ambitious target, yeah. And that will certainly help us to achieve not just net zero, but also to get to net positive, in the future. I can also add our target for waste to landfill. We're aiming to have 100% diversion rate and zero waste to landfill. And we're not only depending on the infrastructure, because some of the stakeholders will say that we have a challenge in the lack of infrastructure to support recycling facilities. So we are building our own integrated waste management facility to make sure that we will be able to achieve that target. And add to it different other projects that we're doing on the carbon accounting, the natural carbon accounting, and the built asset carbon accounting to help us to really measure our carbon and to make sure that we can achieve the net zero and we go positive that. That's from the environmental part. But if we talk also about positive impact on the society and the communities where we operate, we're really aiming on to have to empower the communities and to have a good community engagement, be it from training them to be able to work in our destination in the future, buying the local products, buying and supporting the local economies, contributing to the communities where we are. So having a positive impact is really achievable if we address all environmental and social aspects and we set the right plan and program. I believe that we can certainly achieve it. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And Nichola, you offer more of a F&B perspective on hospitality. It's very easy to focus on the E, the environmental aspect of ESG, but what about the human aspects of the SDGs and the impact on inclusion, equality, education, on sustainability? What does best practice, social and governance look like in Saudi Arabia?
Thank you. Yeah. So I think to follow on from quite a few of the comments the panel have already talked about, social factors for us at TGP and sustainable hospitality really cover inclusion. We think that is a really key factor for that element. So inclusion from the private sector, so creating schemes that include and allow private sector to engage with sustainability. And then also in terms of local supply chains and communities. So some great examples and benchmark projects for us are a Saudi coffee company, for example. Developing their brand Jazeen has been a privilege, the PIF-backed project. And so whilst that's got really lofty, huge ambitions to rightly put Saudi coffee on a global stage, it's also partnering with a whole supply chain of individual farmers, individual producers, so that it's transitioning through the whole entire ecosystem. Another example, looking at private sector and communities and inclusion, is at AlUla 3. So it's a chef entrepreneur, Abdullah, who's created the supper club from touring the country and visiting over 100 farms and finding products and produce to highlight in the supper club. Which just show that influence of the small incremental things that Tanya was talking about, which for us on the societal elements of sustainability is a huge driver. On the governance element, Saudiization is obviously a huge driver of the governance of inclusion. We heard earlier, I think 300,000 Saudi professionals are needed in hospitality. And to achieve that, what's really needed is vocational programs, access to funding, and so schemes like Tourism Development Fund and Cultural Development Fund are providing that platform. I think we also heard earlier that I think nearly 50% of under 30s want to invest in F&B, which is incredible. So there's definitely the incentive and interest in the industry, but we've got to provide a way to make sure that those businesses are sustainable. They are, they're going to provide sustained jobs. So in essence, it's that inclusion of people that is the real factor to tackling sustainable hospitality.
Wonderful, thank you. And Christiane, I believe you're investing in a training institute, or you've opened a training institute as part of the Red Sea operation, is that right?
Exactly. We're really partnering with different institutes to develop and to set vocational training and to have a partnership with different universities to make the youth equipped with the right skills to later on be working within our destination or in any other hospitality and tourist projects.
Yeah. And again, listening to Emma earlier, the local sourcing is also an increasing proposition in Saudi Arabia, so they'll be launching shortly. So that's great news to hear. So looking at some more general questions now, what about the luxury guest experience? So how does the luxury guest experience sit with sustainability? How do you compromise? You know, are these concepts mutually exclusive, or will attitudes change to what luxury actually means? Who fancies that one?
That's actually really my favorite subject here, because at Red Sea Global, that's what we are really aiming to demonstrate, that luxury and sustainability can coexist, are not mutually exclusive. However, one complements the other. We cannot talk about, really need to find the right balance between the two. And what's important to mention here, that let's not only observe how sustainability, the trend is moving in hospitality and tourism, but let's also see how the guest expectation is changing, how the guest is defining luxury. It's not really anymore about excessive food. It's not anymore about a lot of collaterals in the guest rooms or a lot of guest room amenities available for the guest. It's not anymore the definition of luxury. It's becoming, who am I in a destination? How can I connect with the place? How can I give back to the place? My presence, how can I enjoy the uniqueness of the place and the destination? So when we define luxury, we have to be careful to address the three aspects. It's first about the luxurious design and the building. We have proven that at the Red Sea Global, that we were able to design and to build luxurious hotels, hyper-luxurious hotels. But at the same time, we achieved, as I just mentioned now, the LEED certification, gold and platinum. So when it comes to the luxurious design, it can always be delivered. The luxury and sustainability can coexist. When it comes to the products that we offer to the guest in the hotel, certainly, if we see the challenges that we put on our suppliers, and not only us, every other client or customer, we are challenging the suppliers to innovate and to develop sustainable products and sustainable guest amenities. So that area as well, it's also covered, and we believe that by doing a good life cycle assessment of the amenities of the products that we choose, we can certainly achieve that balance between luxury and sustainability. And the third element when we talk about luxury offering is about the service how we serve the guest. And that's where we have to really be careful on setting the right balance. It's example, years ago, when we have the towels changed every day, and now we can see some hotels that are not changing. Does that mean this hotel is not luxurious anymore? No. Yeah. So it's about understanding the change of expectation of the guests, different trends, and finding the right balance on how we serve the guest and what we are offering him. A lot of hotels have eliminated plastic bottles in their guest rooms or in their operation.
Yeah,
that means this hotel is not luxurious.